So yeah, my presentation's on the evolution of the banjo in popular music. So it's mainly concerning like the history, its development, the different styles, and how it's like kind of gone from like its sort of roots in world music to like how we see it today in the 21st century. So yeah, to start off, so like throughout North American history, the banjos has always been perceived as like a symbol which has ranged from sort of its traditions in like African American culture over to its sort of history in like the rural white sort of part of America and sort of folk culture. So because of this, like the banjos kind of resemble different meanings and interpretations that people have sort of like figured from it, and throughout its development it sort of evolved with like sort of new techniques and musical styles, and so like these sort of different styles like it's established it in sort of many different ways within sort of music culture, especially now in the 21st century where a lot of musicians kind of have seen like this sort of historical value of like the banjo and how it's become very it's become a bit of a symbol tradition, and so because of this like a lot of people have like tried to like recreate that and redefine the sort of historical value that the banjo actually has. So yeah, main things I'm be concerned about today with talking about is sort of firstly like the evolution of the banjo and how it's kind of come from its sort of roots in sort of West African tradition and sort of world music to how it's now become a part of like mainstream American popular culture, and how this like progression sort of like come about. So in the presentation I'll be talking about that quite a bit. Also like the musical progression of the banjo, so how people have explored sort of different techniques, styles, and new genres featuring the banjo, and through these I'm like mainly interested in sort of talking about how it's by doing this it's like kind of configured sort of tradition and identity and a cultural symbolism as well. And then lastly, just looking at the sort of perceptions of the banjo in the 21st century, and again, like as I was saying, how this has been demonstrated in order to convey like a massive historical value and authentic look at the banjo in popular music. So firstly, I'm talking about the origins of the banjo. Starting with this picture. So this is an old American folk art watercolor painting. It's called The Old Plantation, and it's debatable when it was actually painted, so it's between 1785 to 1795. And what's actually significant about the picture, like for this presentation, is the actual picture of the banjo player there is actually the first ever depiction of the banjo in like ever seen. Like so, it's like a banjo like figure anyway, and they say this is like the first sort of interpretation, like the first sort of image in the media or whatever of the banjo, and you can see how what I'm going to talk about in a bit is sort of the culture that the banjo kind of was surrounded by in its early sort of inception. And so what it was mainly through sort of cultures on the plantations and African Americans who have brought their cultures over to North America. And so the origins of the banjo were actually it was a result of the Atlantic slave trade. So it dates back to the 17th and 18th century. It's where like slaves from mainly West Africa and the Caribbean started to bring over their sort of native cultures, native traditions, and with that they brought their own instruments with them as well. So the banjo initially was as an instrument it was very there was a lot of different styles of it. So if you see like these were the sort of first pictures of the banjo, like interpretations that people have made from them, and it mainly consists of like a gourd like drum for the body with like a wooden neck, and it ranged from about 5 strings to maybe even just 1 string. And like in the phone you can see how it's gone from the traditional sort of methods to like what we kind of perceive as it today. And so the banjo was mainly encompassed in most culture at the time on plantations and in mostly in just like folk culture in general in North America. They were often, along with the fiddle, they were often like incorporated to accompany dances and what are called hoedowns, which were basically group gatherings where people will get together and basically there'll be a banjo player and then there'll be someone dancing in the middle. It was always something like that. And so yeah, that was throughout like most of the West and the South of the US. And so because of this, it gained like a lot of popularity on the mainstream circuit eventually. And with this, like the significance of it, during the ragtime era, it became a very popular instrument. Particularly with at the time minstrel shows were like a main part to where the banjo was seen and where many entertainers would sort of perform. Most notably was, if you look on right there, it's Horace Weston, who is known as the first African American banjoist and entertainer, who sort of took the banjo kind of, gave it sort of that mainstream sort of inception, and he toured throughout America and also Europe during the late 18th century and into the 19th century. Also, like around this time, because of the popularity, that like, a lot more styles and like interpretations of the banjo started to come about. So there was an introduction of a fifth string, which would be fitted halfway up the neck, and this was mainly introduced by the classical banjo, which was the first general, like sort of professional interpretation of the instrument. So yeah, initially the classical banjo actually gained more popularity than the guitar, mainly because of its affordability. So like players actually used them. In that picture that actually shows the classical banjo that's actually used in orchestras, so there was actually banjo orchestras that used to come about. And at first, when the banjo first kind of hit the sort of mainstream circuit, there was like this announcement of it being like sort of low culture and kind of seen as, lacking musical substance. So there was like this kind of debate between classical and popular, sort of like a debate, and many classical critics criticized the banjo as like a comedic. So I'm gonna get onto that later actually. But coming into like the 1920s, the jazz banjo was very much in demand, and what they considered the fifth string to be irrelevant. And so this is how four-string banjos actually became common. Four-string banjos are also called the tenor banjo as well. However, due to the evolution of popular music in general, with the rock and roll era coming about, banjos were actually seen as relevant themselves within the mainstream circuit, and the electric guitar eventually replace the banjo, and this is mainly due to like sort of the loudness of the electric guitar. So when you're in a concert hall, you could hear you could hear the electric guitar, whereas you couldn't hear the banjo. And also banjos around this time, they were very like easily breakable. We couldn't really, people didn't rely on them as much as they once did. So the banjo kind of lost a bit of a mainstream sort of credibility. However, like as sort of time went on, when it got sort of made in the 1930s and 40s, the bluegrass banjo was actually invented by Earl Scruggs. I'll get onto him again later. And this was a huge turning point for the instrument's development, mainly due to like introducing the fifth string again, and it gave the banjo its distinctive sound. It was considered the modern banjo, and it's still the version of the banjo, like same here, that we still sort of consider as the common banjo today. And so as history progressed, the banjo was sort of incorporated into many contemporary Western genres of popular music, mostly folk, bluegrass and country music. So I've got a quote, it's from the Chicago Humanities Festival, something about the influence of the banjo. So it says, the banjo and its music have since the 17th century constantly been reinvented and redeployed. It has been the heart of tremendous and near constant forms of musical innovation, and yet, through many of these reinventions, it has also constantly and successfully been presented as something very, very old as a concentrated specific form of tradition. So what Laurent Dubois is implying is how the banjo has kind of evolved in a variety of different ways, like even just in its early development, and all of which have kind of succeeded in establishing its narrative for North American history. And again, it's this idea that the banjo is actually this symbol of tradition, a symbol that's linked to history or informs a history of like where the instrument actually came from, where popular music came from, how it developed in its early form. So, well into this bit, there's actually quite a few styles and techniques of the banjo. The main two that have always been considered as like the two that have like given the banjo its distinctive sound are the claw hammer banjo and the stroke style banjo. So, firstly, with the claw hammer banjo, it's considered the oldest form of a banjo, and it's a common component of what the genre considers American old-time music. The actual technique itself, it consists of like this down picking style, which it plays in like a general like rhythmic form, and the melody is sort of played on the index finger or the middle finger in like a downward motion, and it's like a basic 2/4 pulse as a beat. And it's generally more of a laid back style to the banjo, so it draws more attention to the rhythmic structures of the instrument, and it's most specifically the technique used in its early inception. So yeah, for the first demonstration, so again, it's pretty basic. So the claw hammer, the reason it's called the claw hammer actually as well is the hand sort of takes that sort of claw shape when it strums. So demonstration for the first for the claw hammer technique. So yeah, the second technique, as the claw hammer actually began to fall out of fashion, there was a new sort of style which sort of the claw hammer was kind of one of the early banjo styles on the early banjo depictions as well. Whilst the bluegrass banjo actually developed, the main style that actually come from this was the scroll style banjo. So this is this is the most common style. It's regarded as the most popular and common style of banjo playing, and it's usually from its bluegrass music roots. And unlike the claw hammer, like the scroll style actually it consists of finger picking, and the finger picks are actually with the thumb, the index, and the middle finger. It plays like in a rapid and repetitive sequence. It's known as the banjo roll, which is like probably the most common and used technique in the banjo. So the melodies are generally syncopated, and the musical phrases are generally like arpeggiated in like a very rapid tempo. And what it does, it gives this like sort of swing and a shuffle feel. So yeah, and again, along with Earl Scruggs, who invented the style, other notable banjo players who used the style were Bill Monroe and Lester Flatt. And again, a couple of songs which are pretty famous were Foggy Mountain Breakdown, the Jewel and Banjos, the Ballad of Jed Clampett, and what I'm going to play now is Cripple Creek, which is one of the oldest styles on the banjo. So. yeah, they're the two main styles, and obviously you can tell, like, if you were to compare the two, the scrub style's a lot more, a lot more complex. It's a lot more, it's a much more difficult sort of one to sort of get down. There's a lot more technicality to it, and as you can see at the top, I put on some of the actual recognised banjo rolls. So you've got the forward roll, the backward roll, also the mixed one, and then there's the forward backward rolls, which encompasses all three of the format, and obviously what Crumb Creek consists of as a song. So yeah, as the bluegrass banjo generally actually found more success, it proved a significant contribution to like popular culture in North America at the time, generally around the 1960s and the 1970s. Although like longer as a symbol of American culture, and we say this sort of symbol of tradition, the banjo kind of started to become associated with this sort of idea of low culture, and also sort of the hillbilly identities. Like that was kind of how it was seen. So when you hear this sort of distinctive sound of the banjo, it was like you'd notice it with like this sort of low culture, like obviously like broad sort of like television and cinema. So again, as I was saying now, it featured prominently in like American television and cinema, with the most notable examples were the broad sitcom in the 1960s and 70s called The Beverly Hillbillies, which the theme song, The Ballad of Jed Clampett, was always featured. So that kind of gave like it kind of gave this sort of soundtrack for like the southern areas of America. And then also there's the notable dual and banjo scene from 1972 film Deliverance, and again it's used here as like this sort of cultural association of sort of like the American South and like the folk culture. So the symbolism in popular culture wasn't just the musical interpretations, that it was this sort of like cultural association that people got from the instrument, and it was kind of considered sort of clownish and like a comedic trope to pop culture. And again, it was seen as a sort of stereotype for the American South, the deep South in America. Because of these sort of like newly found like imposed stereotypes, it did sort of challenge sort of the past assumptions like of the banjo, and sort of it's this old assumption with like race relations and like the minstrel shows, and even like sort of the slavery times, and like it actually challenged them assumptions and changed sort of the perception and the outlook that we was had of the banjo in the 17th and 18th century, now into the sort of later 19th century and the 20th century. And so because of this like newfound symbolism, it sort of interpreted this like sort of authenticity about it, that it sort of represented an alienation of like city life, and it signalled an appreciation of folk music and folk culture in like a rural country setting. So I've got a video of, it's a scene from the film Deliverance, the dual and banjo scene, and what this video is going to sort of do, it kind of shows like the sort of representation that the banjo has for like the American South. So kind of just basically exemplifies like what I was saying about how it, you know, you kind of get the idea of like the setting, like it's kind of like a soundtrack in a way to the Deep South, and that's kind of how it was like perceived mainly through most of the 20th century basically, and so. And yeah, so because of this, there's a quote here that sort of said, it speaks about the film Deliverance, sort of saying how the film version of Deliverance became a metaphor for rural whites and their unseemly behaviour at the time. Through it, the five-string banjo became the symbol. It goes on to say that the banjo wasn't given nearly enough this much significance in the novel. Instead, the instrument meant to symbolise the otherness in the deep mountains is the dulciana. So again, like it's sort of saying how like these folk instruments, these sort of native instruments, it becomes a symbol for like a culture, for this idea that of like wilderness. So you know, it's giving the impression that the banjo like stood out in American pop culture as like this ultimate symbol, an object, and a theme song or a soundtrack for the rural parts. And so folk instruments sort of native and natural value. It sort of signified this otherness and this like apartness that they had from the city life, from like the busyness of like a city, and it was like it was kind of like probably one of the most accurate representations at the time for the countryside and like the rural areas of the US. So yeah, moving on now. Going to the 20th century with the banjo. So whilst like today there's still like this sort of connotation of like low culture with the banjo, especially in the south of the US. There's like these new interpretations and kind of like postmodern approaches that have like been configured from the banjo now, and so many like contemporary popular music genres have actually incorporated the banjo into music in different ways, and it's order to symbolise different multiple meanings and sort of interpretations as well. So I've looked at a few genres already. So first off, we've got like sort of indie and folk rock, so bands sort of like Mumford & Sons, The Dead South, and even sort of like older acts like Tom Waits who like use the banjo, and it's there to sort of like symbolise the sort of folk roots of the banjo and like the country roots, and how it's sort of like it's a way to pay homage in like to like American folklore and sort of represent that, and like again like tell this narrative that the banjo's told before in the past. So one of the song personal favourite of mine as well is In Hell I'll Be in Good Company by the Dead South. So yeah, and so these have been sure I've been going for actually, but yeah, this band's quite good at like sort of representing this sort of folklore tradition and the bluegrass roots of the banjo. So just remember to tune it anyway. So.
After I count down 3 rounds, in hell I'll be in good company.
So yeah, that sort of, as you can see, that kind of, you know, it represents sort of the old style, the bluegrass sort of roots of the banjo, and you know, in a way, it's kind of like you kind of bring this sort of style back, and you know, it kind of makes it more new again in a way. You can sort of say like these sort of old times, sort of 1930s and 40s, sort of like sort of techniques and how like they've been configured in sort of like a newer time. So yeah, so that's more like sort of the indie, the folk rock, like sort of the more mainstream sort of start areas where the banjo's been used. Another genre I looked at was actually Celtic punk music, so bands sort of like the Dropkick Murphys and like Flog and Molly, and they actually use the tenor banjo, the 4-string banjo, and in a way they can use it as sort of a way to highlight the, sort of the Irish roots, the Scottish roots, and like the sort of Celtic tradition. So in a way they kind of use the banjo as a way to sort of celebrate tradition. In popular music, and sort of like how like the use of like folk instruments like the banjo actually like succeed in doing this. So yeah, tune in again, and then I'll play a couple. So I'll play a couple of riffs sort of to get like an actual feel of what the tenor banjo actually sounds like as well. These will only be short, like, obviously. That's a song by Flog and Molly called Drunken Lullabies, and then probably the most well-known song in the genre is Shipping Up to Boston, so that pretty much goes. this sort of traditional sort of Irish folk sort of sound to the banjo, and yeah, so again, yeah, so you've got sort of a homage to sort of bluegrass roots, and then obviously also this sort of celebration tradition, like a symbol again, this idea of it being a similar tradition. The last sort of area I looked at was sort of like Americana sort of roots music, and they kind of, you know, take sort of like these sort of old styles of like banjo playing, whether it be the bluegrass or whether it be sort of old time American music, and sort of, you know, it has this sort of like postmodern approach to sort of to the banjo, and sort of how it's been like how it's sort of perceived now in the 21st century in sort of like a postmodern sort of world, and so it's in a way, it's sort of, again, it's this sort of idea of like sort of paying homage to like an ancestry. So bands like the Carolina Chocolate Drops, who a 4-piece band who sort of play a lot of folk instruments, and you know, they dip into styles of southern black music of the 1920s and 1930s as the sort of homage that's paid to like their ancestry. And in a way, it's kind of like to redefine musical tradition. There's also the other artist, Steven Seagals, or however you say him, Steven Seagals, or whatever. Yeah, however you say it. And it's kind of like, you know, they're using folk instruments, using this sort of bluegrass sort of tradition, like this genre. When they do sort of covers, so they do rock covers, like metal covers, a way to sort of like, it's with, and again, yeah, it sort of like highlights the sort of like, you know, the pop culture of like the 20th century within like now the 21st century, and you know, again, how it's perceived like within like a postmodern sort of approach. Going on to this idea of like the Carolina Chocolate Drops, and this idea of like reclaiming history, and so one of the members actually sort of talks about like the music being very valid and how like its traditions aren't actually that well known anymore, and so, you know, it's kind of a pursuit for this sort of authentic meaning behind like this music and like where it actually came from, and it's a way to kind of reclaim the history and like make it sort of almost like real again, like almost like brand new, almost, because it's like new, it's just introducing it to new people, to a new generation. And so I've got a video of like you'll see how they actually do this. That's kind of like the overall outlook of it, and again, you kind of get the impression from it. So yeah, just to conclude then, so during the early development of the banjo, it was kind of seen as like an influential figure in like sort of Western pop music. It told the sort of narrative of like North American history, and although like it was kind of perceived as a sort of like low culture like symbol, it did sort of become a significant representation of like the rural country life in the US at the time, and so this sort of significance is kind of, you know, it seems kind of authentic, and it creates this sort of you know, again, it's a simple tradition, and you know, the new techniques and traditions like they're here to like highlight this sort of historical value that banjos actually had. So that's kind of where we're at now in the 21st century with the instrument, and hopefully for years to come. So yeah.
Great stuff, Joe. Lots of really interesting detail there. Thank you. So yeah, we haven't got time for a Q&A, but yeah, lots of interesting things. Thank you. So yeah, we'll move on to Tom. Do you want to get set up and ready?
Yeah. Yeah, I know, innit? I've still got sweat brushes. Charlie, I was going to say, do you want to get it on your phone so you're not fiddling around with passwords and stuff? I've got literally on my Spotify, I've got a playlist that literally says pop contests, and it's in order as well. It's only 3 songs. It's a big ask. It is a big ask. Do you reckon you can be my guy, Charlie?
Yeah, I'll find you. Oh.
I've got a picture of it, by the way.
Shall we discuss the master's call at lunchtime? Is that 3?
Wait, I'm definitely following.
Okay, once we've seen the fields. I don't know from
Emma's going to do it for you.
not everybody's hands.
Tom. Hey Tom. Emma's going to do it for you.
You should?
Yeah, she found your profile before I did.
Oh, thanks, Emma.
It's alright.
It's alright, Tom. Don't
Do you want me to just stay here and then are you going to instruct or?
Instruct. You can like sit down now. It'll be like obvious when it is. It's like towards the end. Nice one.
I'll just see it works.
You could. There's a video I'll play. That'll be a good. Time to probably a
That's
bit.
just coming
wait.
out of the phone, isn't it?
Yeah. What?
That was just coming out of the phone, wasn't it? Oh, is it? Yeah. Yeah, that's right, I think. It's only coming out of one side, I think. Just play it again, yeah? For some reason it's only coming out of the left speaker.
Seems like you.